So telomeres, the end caps of chromosomes.
That's what they are.
So another part of our longevity wheel. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, why do we have them in the
Yes.
longevity wheel? So it's a pretty cool thing. So the chromosomes, you have those sort of X-shaped things, and you've got all your genes squirreled away and twisted away inside there. And they have these little end caps, which are sort of a buffer against the rest of the world. And you have to open up the end caps and pull everything out. And it turns out that those end caps, called telomeres, shorten with age. And that's one thing, but when they shorten, you become more susceptible to all kinds of chronic dysfunctions. And so their rate of shortening becomes this sort of clock of your aging. And so if you're young but you've got shortened telomeres, you're going to have increased risks. So some of the things that are listed in the literature, short telomeres, 3 times increased risk of heart disease, 8 times increased risk of death from infections.
8 times.
Yeah, and in fact, that wasn't just heart disease. That was 3 times increased risk of dying from heart disease. And there's a number of other things. Some of these are cardiometabolic things, things with blood sugar control. And a lot of that is because of the reflection in mitochondrial activity. And if you see us talk about senescence, actually, short telomeres are an instant trigger for senescence.
Ooh. Wow.
And in senescence, we go into this non-growth, dying, inflammatory mode. So this becomes a big deal.
So if we have short telomeres, is there anything we can do to lengthen them to protect ourselves?
Well, how do we get short telomeres?
Well, how do we get short telomeres? Are we born with them?
No.
No.
You, just like everything bad, you have an accumulation of chronic oxidative stress. So
toxins.
Right, exactly. So it's loosely like inflammation causes telomere attrition, which is shortening. And that can be infections or it can be toxic stressors. And in fact, there's good data relating cadmium, arsenic, mercury, and lead all to telomere attrition. And then back to this metabolic thing. So metabolic disease and stress. So when the body is under a high need for energy, you're going to get something called AMPK activation. And AMPK activation should mobilize a whole bunch of processes. You're going to mobilize fat into ketones for energy. You're going to mobilize any other resources you have, like glycogen storage. You can become more efficient with insulin. But there's a problem here. So the sequence of events should be the AMPK activation, and then the mitochondria should respond with either increased efficiency or increased mitochondrial density.
Okay.
But that is dependent on sirtuin activation, which is dependent on adequate NAD.
Okay.
So now if you've got metabolic disease and you're under this stress and you're trying to AMPK activate, but metabolic disease will have chronically low NAD levels and bad sirtuin activation. So what happens then is the mitochondria can't respond to the call of the AMPK activation. And there's this crazy little thing that happens. Upon AMPK activation, now they're starting to think that the telomeres are actually part of the activation. And during the activation, the telomeres shorten.
Ooh.
So you think, oh my God, that's bad.
Right.
But then after the sirtuin activation, after the mitochondria respond, then there's a lengthening of the telomere. So there's a net lengthening because they see in a caloric restriction, dietary restriction, lower carb, lower protein, these people have longer telomeres.
Okay.
Yet there was this paradox that AMPK activation can shorten the telomeres. It's AMPK activation in a compromised system without NAD.
Yeah.
So we see how those come together. If we want to bring the whole system up, we either got to be using AMPK activators when we're young and have a lot of NAD, or we have to supplement the NAD at the same time.
And then consider our lifestyle.
Absolutely. And one other, so our lifestyle, what's our diet, what's our exercise, and of course exercise brings longer telomeres, but stress. One of the things really clearly shown to shorten telomeres is excess glucocorticoid activity, meaning cortisol spikes. So what else do we like for managing cortisol in our longevity wheel?
Adaptogens.
Yes. And adaptogens are what? They're cortisol managers, or AMPK activators,
Yes.
they're sirtuin activators, they're adrenal and HPA axis stabilizers. And so, we need this stable platform.
Absolutely.
We need the D, we need the adaptogens, and then we need to clean the system. You see, what do we keep coming back to as the things that cause telomere attrition, the things that cause senescence? But we get back to our toxic load.
Yes. Yes.
And here we bring back our infectious burden.
As well.
And then we see what infections do. They lower your telomere length. And what does lowered telomere length give you? Increased susceptibility to infections. More of the Matthew effect. For those who have, shall be given more. For those who have not, shall be thrown onto the ground and trampled underfoot.
Wow. So we can see why we need all aspects of the longevity wheel
Yep.
in play
Yep.
for our, best health.
There you have it.
Very cool. Thank you, Dr. Shade.
Thank you, Mandy.